there, everyone. Welcome back to the movies. This is Popcorn and Beers, where some use tomatoes and others use thumbs. We use the stuff that gets you drunk.
Sound effect. I opened it earlier. Sorry, but
he had an accident. What are you drinking over there today? Is that what is that? An
I got
IPA?
This is the Space Monkey IPA. It is 7.1 ABV. Fat Toad Brewing, Pryor, Oklahoma.
How about that? That sounds delicious. I love Toad.
Good.
I'm rocking with a seltzer today. Like I told you, we had some people over a couple nights ago, and so I just buy, like the crowd pleasers, like whatever the crowd pleasers are. So I'll have a few of those as we go through Popcorn and Beers. But this is a black cherry Bud Light seltzer.
People hate on the seltzers sometimes.
It was definitely a fad, wouldn't you say? Like it
was a fad.
Yeah.
So a lot of those companies will fall away, but I think seltzer's here to stay. The hard Topo Chico is the best.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Topo Chico is the best. Absolutely. You're 100% right. They were here for a good time, not a long time. So let's get right into what we were watching this week. Josh, why don't you let us know what was on your viewing agenda?
Oh, yes. I'll tell you what I watched. I started with some Rango. You ever heard of it? Johnny Depp.
Yes, an out-of-town lizard, right?
Out-of-town lizard goes on a hero's journey and finds out who he is. Not a great reception. There's many reasons for that. It wasn't necessarily... The undertones were too deep, perhaps, or hard to grasp for children. Adults thought it was too weird. If most CG cartoon etc. they almost always go for sleek, clean, marketable, cute characters. Most of the time, this went the exact opposite way. It went for some realism, intentionally gross stuff. Like there was a bird with an arrow going through, so he had an eye that was just mangled and dead. Like anything that had a horn was probably missing one of their horns. There was a vulture with a amputated leg and prosthetic. They went for a lot of ugly grit on purpose. It was pretty creative. The entire aesthetic of the movie was really, really well thought out. But to the average viewer, especially someone who's not expecting it, they would probably think it's creepy or weird or uncomfortable to watch. Whereas those movies,
and that's when Johnny Depp was hot, right?
That's when Johnny Depp was hot. That's when the wave of CG was coming on strong. People were throwing as many CGs as they could out there. And they usually did okay. Most of them, the karaoke animals and stuff, that movie, I don't know. It was post-Shrek 2, I think, right? Sing, yeah.
You're talking about Sing?
The first time, now I'm on Shrek 2. Catch up, bub. But anyway, it was a good movie. It was funny. It was weird as hell. I give it a popcorn in 1. It's one of the best aesthetic worlds. Like, the entire world building they did was really, really well done.
I didn't. It's not one of those ones that have stood the test of time with me where I'm like, oh, that's a rewatchable. It was a one-timer for me. But when you were talking about that, you know what it reminded me of? Yeah, of course you do. You just watched it again.
Yeah.
With the ants, when you were explaining to me, when you were reminding me about like all like the animals with the hurt limbs and everything, ants versus A Bug's Life, right? Bug's Life tried to be very cute. Ants was like hardcore.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Woody Allen is the main character of an ant movie. Okay.
Where they drink. Where the ants get drunk on aphids.
Yeah.
And there's
wars
I
with personally termites. Remember, like, at the end when Sylvester Stallone kisses the girl and she's like in his arms and he goes, "Baby doll," and he kisses her. That disturbed me as a child. This is icky.
Did it?
You're not supposed to talk like that in a movie like this. Baby doll. I saw that one first. I remember as a kid, I saw Ants first, and because of Ants, I held off on Bug's Life because there's no way. If it's just like Ants, I don't want to see it. If it's not going to be better than Ants. That was the best they're going to do. Turns out Bug's Life was way better. I
liked Ants better, but I
did you really?
I think because I was going through a phase where I didn't really like the cutesy parts of things. Like the grasshoppers were badass for sure. The animation was amazing. But like I kind of like the muscular ants. Yeah. And I was kind of like into the. It's funny because it led me to I don't want to go down a gorp path here. For all those that are listening to this, please subscribe to Gorp on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. But it led me to believe, like, what if we are all just actually ants in reality, but in our own consciousness, we believe ourselves to be like humans and building cities, but we're actually like living in an anthill, and this whole like world is our little anthill. So we're not actually like cognizant that we're ants. We think of ourselves like in that world, like big, muscular, building our own world type ants.
Interesting. That's a weird thought. I like
it. All right. So what was next on the agenda?
Briefly, I watched Mission Impossible. It just happened to be on the television. I was watching it with my dad. Popped up. I was really happy it popped up. It was nice to see the old. I think that's like the end of old Hollywood, that era of movies, you know, like the late 90s, mid 90s, late 90s.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. That was a really nebulous statement.
The end of, and that's not even old Hollywood. So I was kind of curious as to like.
It seems like okay. Well, it seems like a different time than now, where
you're talking about that 85 to 2000 era.
Yeah, that era when I think that was the end of when movies had the opportunity to do whatever they want. But that's a whole nother topic. But I was talking in this regard to like Tom Cruise is in blank movie, and like you just run to see the movie to see Tom Cruise. And there's plenty of movies after that, such as Mission Impossible 2, Mission Impossible 3, Top Gun, blah blah blah. There's a bunch of them. But I don't know. It seemed like
phase like that. I disagree with you.
Absolutely,
Smith had a phase like that.
Absolutely.
What you're talking about. I know what
right.
you're talking about. Remember, like,
so I guess
Will Smith had that run, like 2005 to 2010,
like 10 in a row.
If he was in it, we were gonna go watch whatever Will Smith was in.
I forgot what his thing is, but it was like he had 10 in a row over 100 million or something like that.
Yeah, it was just crazy, and it was like maybe even before 2005. It started in the late 90s. Maybe it was like a run from 2000 to like 2010, maybe. Because he had a run with like Mission. It started with Men in Black. Oh, Independence Day. Men in Black made a mistake with Wild Wild West, makes a comeback, and then he just stacks hit after hit after hit after hit.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say this is by any means the end of it, but I think it was like prime in the era. Okay, like it's in the prime of Planet Hollywood being a good restaurant or notable restaurant. You know what I mean? Like when movie stars were looked
Bruce
at a little
Willis.
differently, perhaps.
I got you.
Yeah, what's up, Bruce? I don't know. Anyway, that was a broad statement that didn't really need to get delved into much. Mission Impossible 1.
I apologize.
No, it's all good. It had to be spoken upon because I was like, what? But it was a pretty cool movie. It was the beginning of a huge franchise and one of Tom Cruise's like cornerstone. But it was also cool to see a franchise. It was cool to see a franchise that didn't know what kind of show it was yet. Kind of like when you go back and see Fast and Furious 1 versus Fast and Furious 6, 7, 8, whatever. Like, it doesn't know what kind of show it is yet, and it's going to move.
Great comparison there, I think. That was fantastic, especially because the trailer to the new Fast and the Furious is in John Wick 4, our butter for this week. So,
have you noticed that they didn't call it Fast 10? Like Fast 10?
It is Fast 10.
Oh, it is Fast 10?
Oh, you said Fast. I get the joke.
It should be called Fasten. That's a really weird name. Maybe they didn't. Maybe someone suggested that and was like, nah,
your
sounds weird.
Yeah.
Boy.
Right.
So Mission Impossible 1, I give it a popcorn and 1. It was okay. Pretty cool spy stuff. Oh, I watched John Wick 1 and 2 because I didn't get the chance to watch the new one. John Wick 1 and 2, just as good as they were when I first saw them. My jaw was dropped again. I was alarmed at how the movies are long, but they just pack it in, and it's just a ride the whole way through. They have fun with the choreography, but they take it seriously in the fact that it's not ridiculous. But you're also seeing that they're doing some dance moves there, and it's there to entertain you. And it's just good. And they streamline the dialogue by making it like no unnecessary conversation, barely any words, if possible. I love them both. I give John Wick as a whole popcorn in 3. Yeah. Also, because of our classic, drunk classic this week is Natural Born Killers, it made me think of my first Tarantino, or what I view as the first Tarantino, is True Romance. Isn't that why you picked Natural Born Killers? Because you feel like it's early Tarantino and stuff. Well, True Romance is a popcorn and 3 beers, just, out the gate. It's a fantastic movie. It might not be for everyone, but as we'll talk about later, perhaps with the classic, this is one of those movies where the writer, director, whoever, had one mind, one vision in mind. They didn't have a lot of producers breathing down their necks about decisions, suggestions. It was like a creator pushing whatever boundaries he wanted to, doing whatever he wanted to do. Maybe taking some liberties with maybe like a sex scene that was way too long. Like, why'd you make that choice? But he made that choice. You know what I mean? I love that movie. It's so good. A beautiful story. It has some of the most iconic scenes in film with Dennis Hopper with the Sicilian scene. If you don't know it, you should just go ahead and YouTube it. It can be taken totally out of context, but if you have the context of the movie, it's even more so. It's a wonderful scene. There's the scene where Gandolfini's beating the hell out of Alabama. He's beating the hell out of Alabama, and she's laughing in his face the whole time, not giving him an inch. Oh, it's such a good scene. Then there's the Mexican shootout between the mob, the FBI, and just some bodyguards who deal in drugs. And the guy's like, "You get on the ground." He's like, "No, you get on the ground. Those guys are cops. I don't give a There's something you might not know about me. I don't feel like cops." They all get shot, and it's just a beautiful movie. Yeah. It has the happy ending that you don't think a movie like that would have. Beautiful movie. That's it. Christian Slater. Who?
Well, you said if you don't know the scene I'm talking about, go back and YouTube it. Here's what I'm going to say. You said it was a poppin' 3. So I think just go back and watch the movie again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe don't just YouTube that one scene.
All right, so if that's it for you, I will let you guys know what I was watching this week was documentaries. Again, I watched Navalny, and wow, that one just hit you so hard. So what it is with Navalny is it's a story about the guy that opposed Putin in Russia to run for office. And he's pointing out all of these things that Putin does. And it won the Oscar for Best Documentary this year. So it's funny because it opens with, what would you like the crowd to know or the audience of this film to know about you or about this instance in the case you die? And he goes, I don't want to say that. And the guy goes, what do you mean? And he goes, you're making a movie in the case of my death. I found that so funny. But it just gets crazier. It just gets weirder because they try to poison Navalny in the film. And they try to poison him, I'm not going to spoil it, but by putting a toxic agent on his clothes. And how do they find out Putin tried to poison him? Well, it wasn't for Putin. Because all of Putin's men, all of the king's horses and all the king's men, pardon me. But all of Putin's men are just deny. And Putin hates this guy so much, he won't even refer to him by his name. He says, that guy, or the guy on YouTube, or the TikTok guy, the guy that does TikToks with American songs. He will not refer to Navalny by his name. So they find out because Navalny goes, well, why don't we just prank them? We'll just do a prank call to everybody because they find this like hornet's nest of secret agents. And he goes, we just got to find the stupid one. So we'll just keep calling until we find the stupid one. And eventually they get one of the scientists to talk about how they were able to poison Navalny. And it spirals from there. And this chemist tells them the whole story, everything that's gone down with the poisoning, because he thinks Navalny works for Putin and he's telling him everything. And at the end of the call, he goes, I've probably told you too much. And he goes, Navalny, again in character, goes, no, it's fine. This is the stuff we needed. This is the stuff we needed to know. They hang up, and Navalny goes, that guy's going to die. Like, right on camera, he goes, that guy's going to die. he's dead. Putin's going to kill him. And sure enough, at the end of the documentary, spoiler alert, it literally says, we have not been able to track down the chemist. We have not been able to get to the chemist to save the chemist. No one's heard from the chemist since this phone call. So think what you want, but I've never feared that I might die over a prank call. With this, like I said, Putin will never refer to him by his name. And you just see that it is literally just a propaganda state. Like, it is a better known North Korea is how it appears. Because everything that the state media does is all by the hands of the Kremlin. The Kremlin decides what gets said, how it gets said in this movie. And towards the end, Navalny does decide to go back to Russia. And the movie ends with him still in jail. So he's still in jail. He got arrested for running against Putin on a campaign that revealed some of the stuff that Putin was doing. So it was great. It's a pop and 3 beers for me. Worth it.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to hear them accepting their award at the Oscars?
I know that they won the Oscar, but no, I didn't get to hear them talking about are you talking about the speech when they won?
Yeah, they had the whole crew up there, and they had the director and everyone, but also the people involved, and they had a brief moment to keep talking about Navalny, and yeah, he's still there, and this is still a thing, and Putin's a piece of shit, and blah blah blah. It was pretty cool. I mean, it was good that they had that platform.
Oh, they begged him not to go back to Russia. The team, they begged him not to go back to Russia. They begged him, and he's like, "This is my home. I want to go back to my home." And he arrived, and the lawyer was like, "You cannot arrest him. We have all of his legal paperwork. You cannot arrest him." They just arrested him. Elephant Whisperers was another film I watched. It's another documentary. And I'm just going to say this. It is a lovely documentary on Netflix. It is all subtitles. There is no English. So you got to read. But it is a beautiful story about Bowman and Belly. And you get introduced to Belly's granddaughter. And they live on an elephant preserve in India. And they raise Asian elephants. And they raise 2 babies. And after they raise them completely, these babies go to other farms and other like caretakers for the elephants.
Oh, caretakers. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's the story of, I can't pronounce it, but it's Raghu. It's Raghu and Amu. But Raghu is the one that really gets you broken up. That's the one that's the tearjerker when they move Raghu to a new caretaker. And he's like, that was my child. They took my child. And I understand why, but I raised him and we asked them not to take him. But he had to go. He had to move on just like a child. And he's crying about the elephant. And it was just, it got me. Popcorn and 2 beers for me on that one. I definitely recommend it if you're somebody that's like into that stuff. Really heartwarming stories, but it'll get you. And
elephants, man.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I wonder, like, I've never been around an elephant really, but like, you know how like some assholes feel like animals don't have souls, whatever. Yeah. Dogs clearly do. If you've been around a dog for more than 10 minutes, but can you imagine, like, obviously it's bigger, but like they're also smarter and more emotionally intelligent. Elephants, probably you can just feel a real deep soul in them. I bet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I bet it feels real good to just sit next to one.
Yeah, well, like, and it's interesting in this documentary, the elephant, like, rolls around with them like a dog would and plays with soccer balls and stuff, and it just runs around there. He bathes him and scrubs him in the river and stuff, just like a kid, just like a dog. So you feel for it. My last, before we get to our 2 main reviews this week, was Shrinking. Bill Lawrence, and I hope we tag him or we hashtag Shrinking because he is a pretty avid responder on Twitter. And it is, I just want to say, like, what's your favorite show on television right now and why is it Shrinking? Because it is the best show. There's so many aspects of it. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll get emotional, you'll think about your friends, you'll think about your loved ones, you'll be happy, you'll be sad, but not in like a sad way, just like I can empathize with what is going on here. You've got Harrison Ford. Yeah, it's good. It's a really good show on Apple TV. You've got Harrison Ford, who is great in it. He's like he plays the gruff Harrison Ford character, the grumpy guy, but imparts wisdom, you know. And I just popcorn and 3 beers for me on that. It's just a phenomenal show, and Bill Lawrence has done it again with his team because with Ted Lasso and this, it's just there's a lot of feel good going on, lots of the feels. So now that I got all the feel good, we've got to get to our drunk classic, which is not a feel good film. It is not a feel good film, right? Our drunk classic was Natural Born Killers, and you and Jordan, who I know I've taken way too long to acknowledge he is not here. That man is on a cruise. Let him be. But you and Jordan had your reservations in regards to this film. So tell me, we'll start with you. What did you think when you rewatched it?
Well, much like the visuals of this pod currently are jarring, that movie was the jarring film. I mean, there's plenty more of other types of film that are, I don't know, it's more shocking, more gut-wrenching. There's all kinds of gore in other movies, whatever. You can say this was the envelope pusher of 92, 93, whenever it was. It gave you visuals that had never really been seen before in the box office. In their own way, never seen since, except for echoes of it throughout a lot of Tarantino's work as well as Rodriguez's work. Big shock film. It's got some political message to it, a lot of pop culture ugly sides that have been magnified to a point of absurdity on purpose, satirical. It's extreme to the point of being funny. It's a bad movie. So this movie...
It's a bad movie is how you ended that.
Yeah. That's my thesis. All that. So I first watched this movie, I was about 19. I'd always heard about it, but, as a kid, my mom said, never go watch that movie. Because I assumed it was, just gross and murdering and blah, blah, blah. So at 19, I lived across from a Blockbuster at the time, and I was like, oh, I'm going to watch every fucking movie. So I got myself a Blockbuster card, and 19 didn't really have much going on. So I just kept watching movies. I watched Pie, whatever was on the shelves. And then I watched that movie, and I was so almost offended with how bad that movie was when I was 19. This is
bad,
hot garbage. But then I saw it this time.
So aggressive.
Well, I was a 19-year-old. I saw it this time, though. Okay. And I thank you for suggesting this movie because I never would have rewatched it. Ever. No chance. So you making me rewatch it has helped me to appreciate that it is a bad movie still. Not as bad as I once thought. It is still a bad movie. However, it's a very important movie. It's a very important movie. And even if you hate every bit of it, you need to watch it. It's a marvel. Like I said, other things have gotten more extreme in their own way, but this was the box office saying, "Oh, we're never going to do that again," right? Just constantly lacing in like quick bursts of like a dead animal or someone's covered in blood all of a sudden. Very poetic in that way, but like poetic like the crazy kid in high school who scribbles in his notebook and looks at everyone weird. Like that kid made a movie. So it was cool to see that. But I'm not going to say it's a good movie. I mean, that's all there is to it. Excellent performances throughout. It was so cool to see Tatanka from WWE on TV, just so you know. That's my first mention. Robert Downey was in it. It was good to see him, and he had that youthful, rosy cheeks and all that. Like, he's still partying and all that. I believe I watched the director's cut. Cool to see Nine Inch Nails and all the other soundtrack elements to it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just...
Who was more crazy to you, by the way? Let me ask you that. Who was more crazy? Was it Mick or Mallory? Which one had you like, that is the crazy one in this relationship?
I don't think either one of them on their own. How about that?
Okay.
I think they were the crazy one.
Like
I mean, they both had problems. But before this, Woody Harrelson had a job. And before this, Mallory was just a little girl who was being abused in her house. But then together, they became the force of nature that,
by Rodney Dangerfield.
What? Man, and they did such a good job making him awful. I mean, it doesn't take much to make him look ugly, but they really made him look ugly in this, like metaphorically and physically. Yeah. Like, I'm having trouble looking at you, bud. It was really bad.
Despicable man. Just plays a despicable man. Just awful.
But also, like, that was the shock factor in his character, but everyone in the show is awful. There's not one good person except for the man who gets shot in the teepee. Spoiler, it's a 40-year-old film.
The Native American, exactly. How about how they keep having Tommy Lee Jones grab his junk throughout? Like he's grabbing his dick through like 90% of his scenes. He's just constantly adjusting and grabbing his junk.
He's playing a character.
Grabs the tweezers in the nose, sticks the tweezers in the nose. Get over here. So what did you rate it?
Popcorn in 1 due to its importance in the annals of history.
Okay, so I gave it a pop +1 as well, but I put it is a film that inspired a unique way to film movies. And lots of people have duplicated that film style, the subliminal messaging, and it's not just Tarantino. Like it informed a whole consciousness about how to create a story even around people that you should hate, but you root for almost because of how poor their life was.
Great point.
So it's very interesting, and it's funny because the one character, you're right, there's not a single good character. Like Robert Downey Jr. is like at the end, I've had a really hard day. My wife left me, and then my girlfriend won't talk to me.
He was so vaudevillian with how bad he was. You know what I mean? But that was so many of the other characters.
Yeah, I mean, and then the detective, like it was just, you're right. There was not a single redeemable quality in most of the characters in this movie, right? And even like you might say, you might say, well, what about her mother? And I would say she dictates what an awful person her mother is when she sets her on fire. Again, spoiler alert, like you said, 40-year-old movie. But when she lights the bed on fire by saying, "You never did anything." Right? So, oh gosh, how about the mother? You're right. Even never mind, because the mother has a dialogue with the father, or with the son, I want to say, where she goes, "Your father hasn't touched me in years," and she goes like, "How did he get here?" And he goes, "Oh, your father just thought I was Mallory, or he was in Mallory's room while he was drunk." I was like, "Oh my gosh, the dialogue in this movie."
Yeah.
But yeah, popcorn and a beer for me. I think it is a film that should be broken down though in film school.
It should absolutely be studied because so much of it was like performance art in so many ways. They did techniques that you would only see in a college expo, but they put it on the silver screen. Like, how they managed to make that movie is what makes you need to watch that movie. So, but they did so many things. You know, they did the raw, uncut version of what's been sprinkled throughout crazy cinema ever since, like using heavy colored filters, using different types of cameras, changing the black and white for no reason, doing projectors on a person when they're doing instead of subtitles. There's all kinds of different tricks. The little animation bit that you just throw in there for no reason sometimes.
Yeah.
They did a lot of really, really interesting things that was a nice collage portfolio of movie stuff. But it was bad.
I do think Juliette Lewis and Woody Harrelson were on point. They knew the assignment.
Absolutely phenomenal actors. They did nothing wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. They totally understood the assignment. They knew their characters, and they just beat the shit out of it.
They beat the shit out of that shit.
On to John Wick 4. Josh, if you don't mind, you didn't watch it yet, so I'm going to go ahead and give the review. So I will say this. It is a popcorn and 2 beers for me. It's a great story. Everyone's favorite hitman is back. And all I'm going to say about this, I'm going to keep it simple, stupid, because it just came out. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. If you are into this John Wick franchise, this is the accumulation of every film, and it all comes down to this. And it gives us what you get when you combine awesome suits with cool weapons, a dope soundtrack, all leading to action porn for 3 hours. And it is what you get. It is just action porn for 3 straight hours. Like you said about 1 and 2, not a ton of dialogue. The story's already been set up. You don't need dialogue for this story. You know what's going on if you've seen the first one. And it is a lot of him getting wrecked, and it is a lot of
Getting wrecked.
Shops getting wrecked. Yeah, he gets wrecked a lot.
Getting wrecked.
He wrecks a lot of people.
It's a lot of him getting erect.
Well, if you're into action porn, you're getting
every
wrecked.
time he reloads.
But so, would you agree that Tom Cruise has a very signature run?
Oh, absolutely.
So I love that you watched Mission Impossible 1 because, now I can say, so I wanted to say this the whole time I was watching John Wick 4. I believe Keanu Reeves has the most recognizable, much like Tom Cruise's run, the most recognizable I'm in pain, I've been injured walk.
Yes! Yes! That's true.
That's his thing. And I was like, I was watching it, I was like, yeah. And then it shows his feet are all like crooked as he's, and the director
always with the sideways foot, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's his Tom Cruise run, is Keanu Reeves' I'm injured walk. Yes.
Do you think you could like bring the camera down to show that my feet are wobbly? Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And the scraping of the feet too, like the dragging his feet. And I'm like, that's his thing. Because he does it in every action movie he's in. Even in Matrix, and then drags. And I'm just like, that's his run. That's his Tom Cruise run. And you get it through the whole film. Satisfying climax at the end of the film. And there is a post-credit scene. But I will tell you, it's not the end of this universe. But we may have seen the last of John Wick.
Oh, did they get a chance to address Mr. Reddick's passing?
No, they did that in a lot of statements on Twitter leading up to the release of the film. I will tell you, his character's arc is sealed though. We don't have to worry about like a bad replacement coming into the franchise or anything like that. Cool. Yeah, they tied up. They put a nice bow on his storyline. I'm
sad though, just because they had been hinting or rumoring that Lance Reddick would be the star of a movie based around that hotel. Or not a movie, a show. They're going to make a show. Or it was going to be a TV show. It was going to be a TV show. That would have been such a good TV show if he was the lead or just the main guy, like a CSI chief.
What is it, the Continental, right?
The Continental.
Yeah.
But, RIP to him. Good job, Mr. Keanu Reeves. I love to see him do stuff. They said... whoever they is, said that he was so good at the weapons training this time around that he could have taught the trainers.
Yeah, so, I'm sure.
That's cool. I hope that it shows.
I know he taught Halle Berry.
Nice. Oh, was she in it? Is that a spoiler?
No, she's 3.
Yeah, but I was wondering if she came back.
No. But there is a dog, and you will be saying the whole time, just like me with John Clayton, you better not kill that dog.
Please don't die. Please don't die. Please don't die.
Yeah, the whole movie, that was me. So I definitely hope you get the chance to watch it, Josh. I think you're going to love it. But as we wind down this episode, we did have some technical difficulties at the beginning. So I hope that's not too hard on you. But it is your week for Drunk Classic. And it is actually the film you're most excited about as our butter on top. So why don't you walk us through what our Drunk Classic will be, and what you are so excited about with our butter on top this week.
Well, I think I might switch it on you and go backwards. So our butter on top is going to be the much anticipated, at least for me, the much anticipated Dungeons and Dragons. Very excited about the movie. There's some light controversy about the owners, Wizards of the Coast, and Hasbro, I believe, is involved. Yes.
Okay.
They're like umbrella company. Anyway, they've gotten in some hot water over some merchandising and some reworking of their company and not being cool to the fans. So there's actually been a large online protest against this movie, but it's not gonna.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, I'll tell you about it later, but it's a big deal. It's complicated, but anyway, they're making the movie finally, and I'm gonna go see it because I've been waiting for a good Dungeons and Dragons movie my whole fucking life, just like X-Men. Like I don't care who's in it. I'm gonna watch it.
And the one in 2000, we don't have to talk about that.
Yeah, I might actually check that one out though. Wouldn't be bad to see Mr. Wayans as a kid.
Wayans
and the terrible CG and the generic storyline. That's the big thing about it that was just a movie that was called Dungeons and Dragons. It was a fantasy movie. Whatever. Yeah. This is like set in the actual lore of the game. Excuse me, the default setting of the game, and they're using actual spells that are in the spell book. Like they're following the rules more or less, as we can see. The monsters behave.
And it's got
like
relevant actors and actresses.
Very relevant actors. High budget. Mr. Hugh Grant, I think, is playing some kind of wizard boy. A bunch of thieves, barbarians. Who's the lady?
Chris Pine. Chris Pine.
The lady from Fast and Furious, right?
Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Michelle Rodriguez. Yeah.
Woo! Can't wait to see her swing that axe. I'm a big nerd. Can't wait for Dungeons and Dragons. And because of this, we're gonna watch our drunk classic this week is gonna be Reign of Fire. More dragons, right? Dragons.
More dragons.
Yeah. Christian Bale, Matthew McConaughey. Just some dragons, fire, post-apocalyptic England. It's gonna be fun. So let's watch some dragons.
I love it. I love everything about it. Jordan, we miss you. We can't wait to have you back next week. No more vacations at the Sad Fan. We're tired of missing people. For the audience, this has been Popcorn and Beers. We love you. Please subscribe, rate, and review. You can reach us at Popcorn and Beers, pardon me. You can find me on Twitter at The Sad Fan, and you can find the show at The Sad Fan Cast. We appreciate you all. We will see you all at the movies. And don't forget your beer.
Watch Gorp.